The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, Words to Know. Jovially, to do something in a happy or cheerful way. Consequences, a result of an action. Grotesque, very ugly. That carving is grotesque. Agitated, feeling troubled or nervous. Hello friends, and welcome back for another couple chapters of the Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Yesterday we met a little girl named Abilene and her favorite toy, Rabbit Edward. This little girl Abilene does not think Edward is a toy. She treats him like a real creature and she takes very good care of him and loves him. So here we go. Chapter 3. At the end of Chapter 2, they talked about the mention of a ship. So let's find out more about what that is. Here we go.
"She is called the Queen Mary,"
said Abilene's father.
"and you and your mamma and I shall sail on her all the way to London."
"Well, what about Pellegrina?" asked Abilene. "Oh, I will not go," said Pellegrina. "I will stay here." Edward, of course, was not listening. He found the talk at the dinner table to be very dull. In fact, he made a point of not listening if he could help it. But then Abilene did something unusual, something that forced him to pay attention. As the talk about the ship continued, Abilene reached for Edward and took him from his chair and stood him up in her lap. "But what about Edward?" she said. Her voice was high and uncertain. "What about him, darling?" said her mother. "Will Edward be sailing on the Queen Mary with us?" "Well, of course, if you wish, although you are getting a little old for such things as China rabbits."
"Nonsense," said Abilene's father jovially. "Who would protect Abilene if Edward were not there?"
From the vantage point of Abilene's lap, Edward could see the whole table spread out before him in a way that he never could when he was seated in his own chair. He looked upon the glittering array of silverware and glasses and plates. He saw the amused and condescending looks of Abilene's parents, and then his eyes met Pellegrina's. She was looking at him in a way that a hawk would look at a mouse on the ground. Perhaps the rabbit fur on Edward's ears and tail and the whiskers on his nose had some dim memory of being hunted, because a shiver went through him. "Yes," said Pellegrina, without taking her eyes off Edward. "Who would watch over Abilene if the rabbit was not there?" That night when Abilene asked, as she did every night, if there would be a story, Pellegrina said, "Oh, tonight, lady, there will be a story." Abilene sat up in bed. "I think that Edward needs to sit up here too with me," she said, "so that he can hear the story as well." "Yes, I think that is best," said Pellegrina. "Yes, I think the rabbit must hear this story." Abilene picked up Edward and sat him next to her in the bed and arranged the covers all around him. And then she said to Pellegrina, "Okay, we are ready now." "So," said Pellegrina, and she coughed. "And so, the story begins with a princess." "A beautiful princess?" Abilene asked. "Oh, a very beautiful princess." "How beautiful!" "You must listen," said Pellegrina. "It is all in the story." Chapter 4. Once there was a princess who was very beautiful. She shone as bright as the stars in the moonless night. But what difference did it make that she was beautiful? It made none, no difference. "Well, why did it make no difference?" asked Abilene. "Because," said Pellegrina, "she was a princess who loved no one and cared nothing for love, even though there were many who loved her." At this point in her story, Pellegrina stopped, and she looked right at Edward. She stared deep into his painted-on eyes, and again Edward felt a shiver go right through him. "And so," said Pellegrina, still staring at Edward. "Well, what happened to the princess?" said Abilene. "And so," said Pellegrina, turning back to Abilene, "the king, her father, said that the princess must marry, and soon after this the prince came from a neighboring kingdom, and he saw the princess, and immediately he fell in love with her. He gave her a ring of pure gold, and he placed it on her finger, and he said these words to her, 'I love you.' But do you know what the princess did?" Abilene shook her head no. "She swallowed the ring. She took it from her finger and she swallowed it. She said, 'That is what I think of love.' And then she ran from the prince, and she left the castle and went deep into the woods, and so..." "And so what?" said Abilene. "What happened then?" "And so the princess became lost in the woods, and she wandered for many days. Finally she came to a little hut, and she knocked on the door, and she said, 'Let me in, I'm cold.' There was no answer. She knocked again, and she said, 'Let me in, I am hungry.' And then a terrible voice answered her, and the voice said, 'Enter if you must.' The beautiful princess entered, and she saw a witch sitting at a table counting pieces of gold. 3,622, said the witch. 'I am lost,' said the beautiful princess. 'What of it?' said the witch. 3,623. 'I am hungry,' said the princess. 'Not my concern,' said the witch. 3,624. 'But I am a beautiful princess,' said the princess. 3,625, replied the witch. 'My father is a powerful king, and you must help me, or there will be consequences.' 'Consequences,' said the witch. She looked up from her gold, and she stared at the princess. 'You dare talk to me of consequences? Very well then, we will speak of consequences. Tell me the name of the one you love.' 'Love?' said the princess, and she stamped her foot. 'Why must everyone always speak of love?' 'Whom do you love?' said the witch. 'You must tell me the name.' 'I love no one,' said the princess proudly. 'You disappoint me,' said the witch, and she raised her hand, and then she said one word, 'Fourth figure!' And the beautiful princess was changed into a warthog. 'What have you done to me?' squealed the princess. 'Talk to me of consequences now, will ya?' said the witch, and she went back to counting her pieces of gold. 3,626, said the witch, as the warthog princess ran from the hut and out again into the forest. The end. 'The end?' said Abilene indignantly. 'Yes,' said Pellegrina, 'the end.' 'But that can't be the end.' 'Why can't it be?' 'Because it came too quickly. Because no one is living happily ever after, that's why.' 'And so?' Pellegrina nodded. She was quiet for a moment. 'But answer me this. How can a story end happily if there is no love? But, well, it is late, and you must go to sleep.' Pellegrina took Edward from Abilene. She put him on the bed. She pulled the sheet up to his whiskers, and then she leaned in very close to him,
Then she whispered, "You disappoint me."
After the old lady left, Edward lay in his small bed and stared up at the ceiling. The story, he thought, had been pointless. But then, most stories were. He thought about the princess and how she'd become a warthog. Ugh, how gruesome, how grotesque, what a terrible fate. "Edward," said Abilene, "I love you. I don't care how old I get. I will always love you." Yeah, thought Edward. He continued to stare up at the ceiling. He was agitated for some reason that he could not name. He wished that Pellegrina had put him on his side so that he might look out the window and see the stars. And then he remembered Pellegrina's description of the beautiful princess. She had shone as bright as the stars on a moonless night. For some reason, Edward found comfort in these words, and then he repeated them to himself, "As bright as the stars on a moonless night. As bright as the stars on a moonless night." Over and over until at last the first light of dawn appeared. And that's the end of chapter 4. So here's my question for you. Things have taken kind of a strange turn in the story with Pellegrina and Edward. I want to know what you think. What do you think Pellegrina meant when she looked into Edward's eyes and said, "You disappoint me"? What could she possibly be talking about? Give it some thought. Think about everything we've read so far. Think about things you know from other things you've experienced or heard. And think, what could she possibly have meant when she said to Edward, "You disappoint me"? Please let me know. I love that you come and read stories with me every day, and I love that you tell me what you are thinking. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.